Good evening, you're watching Just the News. I'm Amita Balachandra. We're going to start off today's bulletin with a heat wave in the country and looming power crisis as well. Several parts of India have been facing heat wave like conditions, and there are also power cuts now that are being reported in several states. Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, Maharashtra, Haryana, Tamil Nadu, and Andhra Pradesh are facing some of the longest power cuts in the country. Now, parts of Jammu and Kashmir is also facing power outages for more than 16 hours. Now, it's a center versus states tussle really, because states claim that the center did not anticipate a sudden surge in power demand, which generally peaks towards the end of April, but came earlier this year because of the heat wave sweeping across the country. Now, Jharkhand Chief Minister has admitted that the state is unable to meet the peak demand, and he has said that his government has sanctioned additional funds for buying power from the open market through energy exchanges. Now, Haryana is facing, in the meantime, a shortage of at least 3,000 megawatts. Chief Minister Manohar Lal Khattar has said that the government is making arrangements from multiple sources as well. Meanwhile, in Rajasthan, the state is scheduled 4 hours of power cuts for factories, making it at least the third state after Gujarat and Andhra Pradesh to disrupt industrial activity to manage surging power demand amid an intense heat wave, in the country. In the meantime, India's power plants met maximum demand of over 201 gigawatts on Tuesday, beating the record of 200 gigawatts that was clocked on July 7th last year. The central government has denied any coal shortage in the country. In fact, they've said and they've tweeted that 72.5 million tons of coal is currently available at different sources. Now, the IMD has said that heat wave warning for at least 5 states is going to continue as India witnesses its hottest summer ever, with large parts of the country reporting temperatures around 45 degrees Celsius. Now, a heat wave warning has been announced for Rajasthan, Delhi, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, and Odisha as part of these states record temperatures above 45 degrees Celsius. Moving away from the story right now, after Prime Minister Modi made a remark asking the opposition ruled states to cut VAT, Union Minister Hardeep Singh Puri has followed suit and said a similar thing. He said, and I quote, "Petrol will be cheaper if opposition ruled states cut taxes on fuel instead of imported liquor," end quote. Now, on Thursday, the former aviation minister has also said that Bengal, Delhi, and Maharashtra had imposed massive 25% VAT on aviation turbine fuel, while BJP ruled states like Uttar Pradesh and Nagaland, as well as Jammu and Kashmir, charged just 1%. His tweet asked, and I quote, "Ever wondered why air ticket prices haven't come down?" End quote. Meanwhile, there are different states that have now hit back at the remark made by the Prime Minister. Telangana Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao, in the meantime, has said that Prime Minister should feel ashamed for urging state governments to reduce taxes. He said, and I quote, "Why can't the centre cut taxes instead of asking states? The centre has not only enhanced taxes, it also collects cess. If you have the guts, explain the enhanced taxes," end quote. Now, West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee has said that her government had spent 1,500 crore rupees in the last 3 years to subsidize petrol and diesel prices. She said, and I quote, "We have dues of 97,000 crore rupee with the centre. The day we get half of the amount, the next day we will give 3,000 crore rupee petrol and diesel subsidy. I have no problem with subsidy, but how will I run my government?" End quote. Also in the news, the Delhi police has said that they have arrested one of the main accused from West Bengal in connection with the Jahangirpuri communal violence that took place earlier this month. The 31-year-old man was picked up from his relative's place in West Bengal. Now, to give you a bit of a context, the Jahangirpuri clashes took place in Delhi on the 16th of April. on the occasion of Hanuman Jayanti, wherein 7 to 8 police personnel and residents were also injured. Now, the crime branch has also arrested 2 other local residents for their alleged involvement in the riots. Now, both the accused live in Jahangirpuri and have been booked for rioting on the 16th of April. Moving on to the state of Karnataka now, after a Bengaluru school allegedly made Bible reading compulsory, Karnataka Education Minister B.C. Nagesh has said that Bible and Quran are religious texts, but Bhagavad Gita is a book which speaks about values needed to lead life, end quote. Now, this comes in response after Archbishop of Bengaluru questioned the state government and said, and I quote, "If children are asked to buy Bhagavad Gita or books of other religion, can it be considered forcing them to have to be influenced or inducing them to be converted to these particular religion?" End quote. Now, yesterday, the state government had issued notice to Clarence High School in Richardstown in East Bengaluru to explain its decision to mandate teaching of the Bible. In the meantime, the state education department has directed the block education officer to inspect the syllabus of all Christian schools in the state over making reading of Bible compulsory, asserting that it is against the Karnataka Education Act. The education minister has also warned that if any violation is found in the syllabus, strict legal action will be initiated. Moving on now, in Uttar Pradesh, over 10,000 loudspeakers were removed from the religious sites of various communities across Uttar Pradesh in the last 72 hours. Moreover, the volume of 35,221 loudspeakers was lowered in accordance with the prescribed decibel levels. This was part of the campaign to ensure compliance with the government directives on the use of loudspeakers. Also in the news, according to PTI, the Delhi Pollution Control Committee has imposed a fine of 50 lakh rupees on the North Delhi Municipal Corporation for being negligent and not taking proper steps to prevent the fire at the Bhalswa landfill. Now, Environment Minister Gopal Rai had earlier asked the anti-pollution body to probe the incident and submit a report within 24 hours. The fire started in a small area on Tuesday, but it spread due to the negligence of civic officials and engulfed the entire mountain of garbage. Now, according to reports, firefighting operation is still on in this landfill, and locals have been reporting breathing problems as well. Schools near this landfill have been closed for a week because of smoke from this massive fire. Moving on to COVID updates at this point in time, India has reported 3,303 new COVID cases and 39 deaths in the last 24 hours. It's been reporting over 3,000 cases for the first time in 46 days. Active cases stand at 16,980. Now, there are other states which are not just bringing back the mask mandate, but there are some states which are now asking citizens to be cautious, like Goa, for instance, has advised citizens to continue wearing masks and follow COVID-appropriate behavior. According to the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, there are currently 27 active COVID cases in Goa. Other states that have reintroduced the mask mandate are Karnataka, Chandigarh, Delhi, Haryana, Punjab, Telangana, and Uttar Pradesh. Also, the National Disaster Management Authority has issued guidelines for those wanting compensation for the death of a family member due to COVID. Now, the guideline has said that those wanting compensation will have to file the application by the 23rd of May, and all COVID deaths that have occurred before March 20th, 2022 are eligible to apply for compensation. For deaths occurring after the cutoff date, claims can be made within 90 days of the death. In other news right now, coming in from Madhya Pradesh, according to NDTV, Congress leader Kamal Nath has resigned as the leader of the legislature party in Madhya Pradesh because he was holding 2 posts, and this is according to the party's one man, one post rule. He will continue, however, as the Congress party chief. Now, the Congress has said that his resignation from the post has been accepted by party chief Sonia Gandhi. Moving on now, while addressing a rally, Prime Minister Modi has said that efforts are on to remove AFSPA, which is Armed Forces Special Powers Act, completely from the Northeast region. Now, Prime Minister Modi has said, and I quote, as the law and order situation improved with 75% decrease in violence in the region, there have been changes in the imposition of laws. The AFSPA was first revoked in Tripura and then in Meghalaya, end quote. Now, to give you a bit of a context, AFSPA grants special powers to the Indian Armed Forces to maintain public order in disturbed areas. Now, there's been a lot of talk about this, especially now because of a firing incident that took place in Nagaland that led to a death of 13 civilians at Oting village in Mon. Moving on, according to a report by the digital rights and privacy organization Access Now, India has recorded the highest number of internet shutdowns in the world in 2021 for the fourth year in a row. Now, out of 182 internet shutdowns globally in 2021, India alone accounted for 106. Now, out of these, 85 were reported in Jammu and Kashmir as part of counter-terrorism measures by the government. Now, in 2020, India had accounted for 109 of the 155 internet shutdowns globally. Moving on to international news, we start off with Ukraine crisis. It's day 64. NATO's Secretary General has said that NATO is ready to support Ukraine for years in the war against Russia, including helping Kyiv to advance from old Soviet-era weapons to modern Western military equipment as well. Now, NATO Secretary General has said, and I quote, "We need to be prepared for the long term. There is absolutely the possibility that this war will drag on and last for months and years," end quote. Now, he also added that Finland and Sweden would be embraced with open arms should they decide to join NATO. Now, in the meantime, United Nations Secretary General has arrived in Kyiv to meet with Ukrainian President Zelensky as well. Meanwhile, in Sri Lanka, former Sri Lankan cricketer Sanath Jayasuriya has met with Indian High Commissioner of Sri Lanka, Gopal Bhagle, and requested for assistance to obtain essential medicines for the island nation. Now, if you remember what's going on in Sri Lanka is its worst ever economic crisis. There are protests now where people have taken to the streets because there's fuel shortage, there are power blackouts as well, and people are demanding Prime Minister and President's resignation. During his meeting with High Commissioner Gopal Bhagle, the cricketer has now appreciated India's support in the form of essential supplies, including cancer medicines and other life-saving drugs, but has also requested India now for essential medicines because Sri Lanka is running short of drugs as well. Now, the World Bank has, in the meantime, agreed to provide Sri Lanka with $600 million in financial assistance to help meet payment requirements for essential imports. And this is according to the Sri Lankan President's Media Division, which said in a statement on Tuesday. Moving on to sports news at this point, Liverpool defeated Villarreal 2-0 in the first leg of the Champions League semi-final. Now, Liverpool are attempting to reach their third Champions League final in 5 years. One piece of good news before we wrap things up here on this bulletin: a photo of a street food vendor working at a smoke-covered oven has won a major food photography award. Now, Indian photographer Devdatta Chakraborty has won the Pink Lady Food Photographer of the Year 2022. That brings us to the end of this bulletin. Thank you so much for watching.